What's up, y'all? It's Pokey Professor Will here, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with the new Iqon ACT boots. I'm not going to be doing any skating in this video. This is just a gear talk today. But we'll talk about why I bought the boots, what the fit was like, what my opinions are after riding them for a few sessions, and also how to prevent your receivers from breaking on these things. There has been a few people who have reported breaking their receivers, the UFS receivers. We'll talk about that at the end of the video, but you know, it's pretty simple. You just need to make sure that you're using the right length of UFS bolt. But I bought these boots because I was very curious about the interlink technology. These are the first boots that I'm aware of that accommodate UFS frames, Trinity frames, and 165 millimeter frames. So I don't have any Trinity frames, but I do have some UFS. I do have some 165 millimeter frames. I also wanted to test out a UFS boot that has a flat bottom. So I'm used to skating FR1s and UFRs. I've tried the FR Neo. I've tried a couple of Flying Eagle skates in the beginning. I don't remember which models they were. But I've never ridden a flat bottom boot before. So I wanted to test that out. I also wanted to test out what it feels like to ride something with a really, really stiff cuff. The FR and UFR cuffs, they're pretty stiff, but I heard that this one is really, really stiff, especially on the 12 o'clock revolver setting, and I can confirm that this thing is really, really stiff cuff. The primary purpose of these boots were to skate my Ultra 100s, so kind of big wheel wizard skating. Here's the Ultra 100s installed on the ACTs, right? But really I'm comparing them to the UFRs, right? Because this is the other setup that I've ridden the Endless 100s on. Another part of testing out the ACT was to see what a lower ride height was like. So you can see on the ACT boot, I mean, the front wheel basically comes up into the boot, right? And then there's a slight heel raise on this frame. But it's very low compared to the UFRs, right? The UFRs probably sit about a 1.5, about 1.5 centimeters higher than the ACT boots. So all things that I wanted to test, and the Iqon ACT boot was a great boot to test all of these things. So I ended up buying the CL version of this skate, which is the one that comes with the 165 millimeter 4x90 frames. But all I was really interested in was the shell, so I sold all the other parts to this skate. But as far as the fit goes, I purchased the size 40 to 41 shell, which is a 274 millimeter internal shell length. I'm used to skating FR1s and UFRs in the size 40 or size 7 shell, which is a 270 millimeter internal length. So these are slightly longer, apparently. They don't feel longer to me, really. But my feet, they are 268 millimeters and 269 millimeters. So as far as the length goes, I fit into them really well. I can feel the end of the skate, but it's not mashing my toes. This is with intuition liners in them, right? They're a little bit wider in the toe box than the FRs. Not much. It didn't feel uncomfortable. The vertical toe space here is less in the ACTs. Not by much, but just a little bit. It's noticeable. Your toes are definitely tighter in here than in the FR UFRs or FR1s. I didn't skate these with the stock liner because the stock liner was tiny. It's 258 to 264 Mondo point, right? I skated these with 3 different Intuition liners. I skated them with the Intuition Premiums, 26 to 26.5 Mondo point. I skated them with the FR Intuitions, which are 26.5 to 27 Mondo point. And I also tried them with these Wizard Intuition liners, which are also 26.5 to 27 Mondo point. With all of the liners, I fit in as far as length goes and width went, I felt great. One problem was the premium liners gave me an issue, a really big issue, right here at this eyelet. On the premium liners, there's an eyelet on the premiums that sit right under this eyelet. And I have a little bump on it's either the medial cuneiform or the navicular bone, or maybe right in between those two bones. But I have a little bitty bump on the top of my foot, and I found that really, really uncomfortable when I used the Intuition Premium. So the FR and the Wizard liners worked a lot better since they don't have the eyelets that go all the way down, right? But they feel great as far as length and width. They feel very similar in the tightness that I get with my UFRs or my FR1s, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience, my opinions about them, right? So I think that the interlink mounting is really, really cool. It's a neat idea to be able to skate 165 millimeter Trinity and UFS, although unless you get the interlink boot, you have to purchase the adapters separately, right? However, with these, see, watch, that thing just, the front one is really loose and it slides around. So whenever you're trying to install frames, you have to make sure that these receivers aren't sliding around. And so it's a little bit annoying compared to all the skates that I've had before where the receiver is just locked into place, right? So it's a little bit annoying, but it's cool. And how often are you going to be removing the frames from this boot? May be the question, right? If you're just going to skate one frame on this boot, you just got to do it once. But if you're planning to skate all sorts of setups on this one boot, that's just something that you'll have to deal with, right? And also the potential for these breaking, right? Which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. I feel a lot more comfortable in my UFRs and my FR1s than these skates. The toe box is just a little bit tight on these. I like the toe box on the UFRs. You can see how the toe box kind of scoops there, where it doesn't scoop so much on the ACT version. That tightness, I think I could have overcome that if I would have skated these more, but I didn't necessarily like that. The cuff flex, I tried the cuff in setting 10 and setting 12. This boot right now is in setting 6, which is the default setting. This boot is in setting 12. So you can see the difference in the cuff height is pretty extreme there, right? I didn't want to skate the low cuff version, right? With the Intuitions, it just made more sense to me to skate the high cuff. So the 10 and the 12 revolver settings. The 12 is super, super stiff. Incredibly stiff. The stiffest skate I've ever been in. I like a little bit of flex, I found out, right? Part of this buying these boots was to test that out. I found that I like a little bit of flex in mine. The UFRs, they're lighter. They're over 100 grams lighter than the ACTs, so that's an advantage for these. Not to say that these feel necessarily heavy, but it's something that I could tell. Whenever I was skating them, I could tell that they were a heavier boot than what I was used to skating, right? Also, my heel just feels more locked in with the UFRs and the FR1s. Not to say my heel didn't feel locked in on these. I didn't feel like I got any heel lift when I was skating them. It's just something about the way that my heel sits in these skates is different than the FR1s and the UFRs, and I prefer the UFR FR1s over these, right? And with the ride height, I didn't notice a big difference. Even though the UFRs are 1.5 centimeters higher, it just didn't feel like that translated into my skating at all. So So I really like my UFRs, I found out, and I'm probably going to sell these. And the particular reason that I'm going to sell these is because of that pressure point with the eyelet and my little bump on the top of my foot. Even when I use the Wizard Intuitions and the FR Intuitions, I still feel that pressure point, and I don't really want to fight it when the FR ones and the UFRs just really, really work for me, right? So, really cool skates. I think they're great skates. I just like my FRs more. So, there you go. That's what I... oh, one other thing. These buckles right here, the Kaiser Supreme buckles, these buckles are so good that I ended up buying a set for all of my FR skates. And by replacing the stock buckle on my FRs, I'm able to get my cuff tighter on these. And these buckles are really, really good. So if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them about my experience. I rode these 4 different sessions. So I didn't ride them a ton, but enough to find out the questions that I was looking for, I think. So the last part of this video, I just wanted to talk about how to prevent your UFS receiver from snapping on these, since there's been a few reports about that. So I went ahead and took the liner out of the boot, and inside the boot, there is a foam pad that keeps the rear receiver in place. There's also a foam pad, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, in the front that keeps the front receiver in place. But we can take a look at the receiver if we peel back the back foam, which I've already done before I shot the video, right? Also I took out the little insole after I took out the liner, right? But here's the rear receiver, right? And to make sure that you don't break your receivers, you just need to make sure that you're using the right size UFS bolt. So with my CL version, it came with 4 bolts, 2 sets of these, right? But for like my right skate, I have 2 8mm M6 bolts that are used to hold the 165mm receiver on. I have a 10mm bolt that was used for the rear frame mount, and then I have a 20mm bolt that accommodates the 165mm adapter and screws into the front, right? Now, if you use different frames than what come with the skates, your aftermarket frames might be thicker or thinner than the stock frames. If they're thicker and you use one of these 10mm bolts and it doesn't go into the UFS receiver all the way, what will happen is this will snap, right? So if the bolt doesn't screw into the collar all the way until it gets to the base of the plate, you risk the possibility of this thing snapping. And there's been a few reports of that happening, right? So here's a picture of one from Discord. Somebody else had reported this one on their rear receiver. And this is what happens if you use too short of a UFS bolt. So it's simple. You just have to use the right size UFS bolt, which means for the CL version, people, for sure, you need to buy new M6 UFS bolts, different lengths to accommodate different frames. The Kaiser Super Bolts are what come stock on this frame. You can buy a pack of Kaiser Super Bolts. They come with 4 12mm, 4 15mm, and 4 18mm. So here's a image of the receiver using a 10mm UFS Super Bolt, which is too short. You can see here it's too short. I've put some washers on top of the receiver to imitate the thickness of a frame. So that should be about the thickness of the endless 100s, maybe about 0.5mm more, with using a washer as well, right? Using a washer. So, but anyways, that's too short. That would potentially snap, right? Here's an image of the 12mm, which is better, right? Here is an image of the 15 millimeter, which is a little bit too long, but honestly, the thickness of the foot insole is likely to absorb that like little millimeter that's coming out anyways, right? So you just need to make sure that you're using the right length of bolt. So finding the correct UFS bolt, it's going to depend on the frames that you're using. But you can use a caliper to measure things, right? You can also peel back the foam pad back here, like install your frames onto the boot, peel back the foam pad, and then you'll be able to visualize how far the bolt goes into the receiver, right? That's what I ended up doing to figure out which bolts I needed, which I figured out the correct size of bolts was about 13 to 14 millimeters with a washer for these, which finding those was a little bit difficult. You can find 13 millimeter power slide and ground control screws. So another thing that you can do is you can just install the frames, install the screws, and you can feel around if you don't want to, peel back the foam pad, right? If you don't want to peel back the foam pad, you basically either have to measure things out or you're going to have to just kind of feel around in there. And if you have the correct length of screw, you should be able to feel that the screw is flush with the end of this receiver, right? But to prevent these from breaking, all you need to do is find the correct length of UFS bolt, right? So that's it. If you guys have any questions or comments, I would love to hear them. Other than that, you guys have a good one, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.